On today's show, I want to talk about a Browns rookie that no one really seems to be talking about, whether it's in Cleveland or just across the country, because the Browns didn't have a first round draft pick and there wasn't a lot of eyeballs on the draft from Cleveland. But I think this draft pick, while I may not have been doing, somersaults for it when it was made, there's a really high ceiling with this player. And I'm going to tell you why on today's show. But we are gearing up for week one at home against the Dallas Cowboys. And I was looking at the likes in the number of July between ourselves and the Dallas Cowboys report. Not going to sugarcoat it. They are kicking our asses right now. But I also feel like Cowboys fans are going to go into week one with too much confidence because they think they're America's team and they're God's gift to football. So I'd love to just kind of jump their bones a little bit in July right now and then take them down in the season as well. So let's talk about this Browns rookie that no one really seems to be talking about. And it's the second round draft pick out of Ohio State, Michael Hall Jr. Some background information before we really start to divulge into my analysis on him and the upside on him as well. He's 6'2", 299 pounds. At least he was at his pro day in Columbus. He ran a 4.75 40-yard dash. Not easy to find 300-pound lineman who ran that fast. 299 pounds, we kind of round up a little bit. Now, Ohio State's a little bit infamous for maybe having their 40-yard dash be 39 yards. But even if that was the case, like running a 4.8 40-yard dash, you are finding some incredible speed and athleticism. And oh yeah, he just turned 21 years old. So he's super young and moldable and raw. Now, at Columbus, he had 12 starts over 3 seasons, which was a little bit of an issue in terms of lack of availability, as he just always seemed to have a nagging injury pop up and kind of keep him off the field. He didn't play a huge number of snaps year to year, and that unfortunately showed in the production. But the short version of Mike Hall, if you just want to get the spark notes to sound smart in front of your friends, there are flashes of excellence. Like, there are great clips out there of Mike Hall just bursting through the offensive line, getting to the quarterback before he even really gets the football in his hands, and blowing up a play. Unfortunately, the longer version of the Mike Hall breakdown is there's a lack of consistency for Michael Hall. Whether it's availability or in-game, like the injuries kind of piled up and tallied up, and that kept him off the field. And as a result, you didn't get a lot of production on a consistent level. So there were moments and flashes of greatness, but now we need to see that be stretched out over an entire season. You can look at his 3 years in the stats from it in Columbus as a player for the Buckeyes. I mean, he had 4.5 sacks and 7.5 tackles for loss in 2022. And then in his final year, you see a bit of a regression. Now, the pressures are up, and that's really good to see because pressures is one of the most important metrics that teams look for that your average fan doesn't look at because, sure, sacks are great, but if you can generate a pressure and force a quarterback to throw the ball out of bounds, that's almost as good as a sack, right? It's a waste of play for the offense, and the defense can catch their breath and not give up any yardage. Now, he was second in FBS in pass rush win rate at 18.3%, only trailing defensive tackle Byron Murphy amongst all interior defensive linemen. And at the 2024 Senior Bowl, he was voted the top defensive lineman in the week of practice. So, amongst his peers, he is really well respected and clearly dominant. On the field, in a small, I wouldn't say sample size, but there are flashes and more than just flashes, like pass rush win rate at 18.3%. Sure, no one really knows what that means, but to finish second in it, you got to be doing something right. Overall, with Mike, I think there's going to be a lot of coaching that has to be done, and also just kind of getting your body healthy because the NFL is a grueling schedule compared to college football. Like, if you're kind of struggling through a 12, 13 game schedule, wait till you get to a 17 game regular season in the National Football League. So I think that there's going to be a lot of learning that has to be done for Hall on the field, and then also just taking care of your body off the field so you can be ready every single Sunday. And that's a skill. And some guys are better at it than others. Like, you see guys that play very late into their careers, and a big reason why is they are taking care of their bodies on off days leading up to every single Sunday by going the extra yard with the trainers and spending that time to make sure they're ready. So I think for Hall, that's got to be a big focus, which is why I don't have super high expectations for him in year one. But if we see those flashes of excellence from his time at Columbus get turned into every single day at Cleveland, like you're going to have one of the best interior defensive linemen in football on your hands. Now, what do you guys think about this question? Do you think Mike Hall will be an impact rookie his first year? There's a lot of players on this defensive line that are going to command a lot of snaps, and that's going to be tough for Mike Hall to break through. But if, like I said, the flashes turn into just daily occurrences, the Browns have one of the steals of the draft coming at pick 54 in round number 2. Now, like I was saying, though, Browns defensive line, it's got a really good cast and crew. Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Quentin Jefferson, Maurice Hurst. 4 players the Browns went out and signed in free agency. You know that scene in the Indiana Jones movie where they're in the market and the guy takes out his sword and does a huge sword show, and then Indiana just takes out his gun and shoots him? That's what Andrew Berry did with the Browns' run defense. They had one of the worst run defenses in 2022, and sure, he could have gone to the draft and developed some players, or you could just take out your gun, which in this case is just free agency, and just go out and buy 4 really good players. And that's what Berry did. And it worked last year, right? You look at the Browns' defensive line, Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Darius Smith. Like, this is one of the best defensive lines in football, if not the best defensive line, because if Myles Garrett's on it, it's going to be one of the best. So for Mike Hall, he is joining a defensive line where there is so much leadership that's going to, share their wisdoms and what they've learned on Mike, and he's going to hopefully soak it up like a sponge. But there is a really tough glass to break through on this defensive line where Browns, I don't think, signed Quentin Jefferson, Maurice Hurst to hold a clipboard. Now, things could change in training camp if Mike Hall is proven to be one of the top 4 defensive linemen. They're going to give Mike Hall the opportunity to get on the field. I think ultimately the quickest way for Hall to get on the field in the regular season will be earning snaps on third down. If Mike Hall can prove to be a disruptive pass rusher from the interior defensive line, when it's 3rd and 12 and you know they're passing, you want to get Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, and then your top 2 pass rushing defensive tackles, which I would say at the moment would be Quentin Jefferson and probably Shelby Harris. But if Mike Hall is looking the part of someone worthy of lining up next to Myles Garrett, it could be Garrett, Smith, maybe Okoronkwo, kick Zadarius Smith inside, and then toss on Mike Hall as your only real defensive tackle on the field. Like, I think that's the quickest and I would say the easiest path for Mike Hall, because third downs, like those snaps for pass rushers, are coveted, but that's his forte. That's his specialty right now. And that could be a way for him to get on the field in his rookie year. Something, unfortunately, like last year's day 2 draft pick, Siaka Ika was unable to do at the same position. Now, before we get to the rest of today's show, if you want to get your hands on these Browns polos, go to chatsports.com/Browns polos. They're 40% off. You guys know I love my polos. So if you want to rep your favorite squad, we're also having a little bit of professionalism to you as well. Chatsports.com/Browns polos. So to revisit the Browns draft class, because there is another rookie I want to spend just a few more minutes of your time on here as someone that may fly under the radar. I'm really high on Zach Zinter. I don't think we're going to see much of him this year at all. I wouldn't be surprised if he does not play a single snap. Then we've got Jamari Thrash, who I don't think is going to have a quick role or quick path to the field with how loaded they are at wide receiver. But Nathaniel Watson, if we're doing an honorable mention, I toss his name into the ring. He was a 6-year player at Mississippi State, 3-year starter, first-team All-SEC and conference leader in sacks and tackles last year for the Bulldogs. But he is on the older side. Playing 6 years of college football means you're going to enter the league at 23 years old, turning 24 before your first game. It also means that you get to go up against 19, 20-year-old freshmen and sophomores. And as a 23-year-old, that's a little bit of an unfair advantage. And that's kind of been the issue with college football the last few years is you've got some guys who have been in the league, or I say the league, been in college for 5-6 years, and they are picking on guys who are freshmen or sophomores. But I think there is a path for Nathaniel Watson onto the field. You look at the Browns linebacker room here, and the Browns linebacker room has unfortunately been just ripped to shreds by injuries the last couple of years. Hopefully that's not the case this year. We finally got a full season of JOK in 2023. Jordan Hicks has been relatively healthy for much of his career. Devin Bush is not supposed to have a large role. You're really going to see only 2 linebacker sets with an extra DB on the field, more nickel defense. But the Browns linebacker room has somewhat been cursed, I think we can agree. Like, I don't think that's a very hot take. You may not think about it before you're going to bed each night, but I do. Like, for the last 3 seasons, the Browns have had 8 linebackers start 5 or more games. Like, that's almost a third of the season. And 8 players have done that for the Browns over the last 3 years. JOK, Anthony Walker, Takitaki, Tony Fields. 4 guys making 10 or more starts. Malcom Smith, Mack Wilson, Deion Jones, Jacob Phillips. Like, the Browns have not had much continuity whatsoever in the middle of their defense. So, I don't think you're a crazy man if you suggest that trend could continue into 2024. And if so, we may get some more Nathaniel Buki Watson earlier than expected. So just keep an eye on him throughout training camp. If he starts to impress and works his way and graduates from just being a special teamer to maybe pushing for some snaps on defense, chances are his number will get called at some point this year if the recent trend at the linebacker position continues into 2024. All right, we're going to wrap up the show by picking some cards, or picking a card. We got producer Trizzy Trace here. Trace, which card do you want to go with?
I'm really liking the 7 of spades.
You know, we're doing this during our live show at the moment. Airs every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. I see Has been in the chat. We're going to break down his super chat in 30 seconds on our live show. He's a big Jerry Jeudy fan. I got to go with 3 clubs.
Like it.
You ready? What'd you say?
7 of spades.
No, but ace of clubs. Ace of clubs.
I hate
All
when
right.
you do that, dude.
I know. All right. That will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to sign off, and we'll catch up with everyone later.